open on this image, July 11th, 1825. A cloudless morning in Port-au-Prince. 14 French warships appear on the horizon, their white sails cutting through the turquoise water. 500 cannons pointed at the city. The world believes Haiti failed because of corruption, because of natural disasters, because of some inherent inability to govern itself. That's the story we've been told for 2 centuries. But here's the truth. Haiti didn't fail. Haiti was bankrupted. Systematically, legally, at gunpoint. This isn't a story about bad governance. It's a story about the greatest financial extortion in human history. It's a story written in ledgers, in payment receipts, in compound interest that crushed a nation for 122 years. This is the story of how accountants destroyed a country more thoroughly than any army ever could. Let me show you the receipts. Before it was poor, Haiti was rich, impossibly rich. In the late 1700s, this colony called Saint-Domingue was the crown jewel of the French Empire. Walk through Paris today and you're walking through a city built on Haitian wealth. The boulevards, the theaters, the museums filled with art purchased with sugar money. This single colony, 1/3 of a Caribbean island, produced 40% of all sugar consumed in Europe. 40%. From France to England to Spain. It produced 60% of all the coffee that fueled the Enlightenment, that kept philosophers awake as they wrote about liberty and equality. The irony burns, doesn't it? Saint-Domingue generated more wealth than entire nations. Ships left French ports loaded with manufactured goods. They sailed to Africa and traded those goods for human beings. Those enslaved Africans endured the Middle Passage. 1 in 5 died before reaching the Caribbean. The survivors were sold in Saint-Domingue's markets. The ships returned to France loaded with sugar, coffee, indigo and cotton. The triangle trade. It built fortunes for merchants and kings. But this wealth had a price paid in blood. The conditions were hell on earth, literally. There was a saying among enslaved people in other colonies, "Pray you are never sold to Saint-Domingue." The average life expectancy after arrival was 7 years. 7 years of cutting sugarcane under the tropical sun until your hands bled. 7 years of feeding cane into crushing mills that sometimes caught fingers, hands, entire arms. 7 years of boiling juice in cauldrons over roaring fires in suffocating heat. The plantation owners calculated it was cheaper to work slaves to death and buy new ones than to keep them healthy. This was the economic model. Human beings as disposable machinery. The balance sheet valued iron tools more than human life. This was France's cash cow. This was the pearl of the Antilles. Then on August 1791, the impossible happened. In a forest clearing called Bois Caïman, enslaved people gathered for a voodoo ceremony. A priestess named Cécile Fatiman slit the throat of a black pig. The assembled crowd drank its blood and swore an oath. They swore to fight for freedom or die trying. Within days, the plantations were burning. The night sky turned orange with flames. The enslaved rose up by the thousands, then tens of thousands. Led by Toussaint Louverture, a former slave who had taught himself to read and studied military strategy, they launched a revolution that would shake the world. Toussaint was a tactical genius. He organized rebel bands into disciplined units. He used mountainous terrain to his advantage, setting ambushes, launching night raids, disappearing into the jungle when faced with superior forces. They defeated the French army. Then they defeated the British army when Britain tried to seize the colony. Then they defeated the Spanish army. Finally, in 1803, they defeated Napoleon Bonaparte's forces. Napoleon, who had conquered most of Europe, sent 40,000 of his best troops to retake the island. Veterans of European campaigns commanded by his brother-in-law. Ships bristling with cannons, the finest military force of the age. But the Haitians fought with desperate courage. They fought knowing defeat meant not just death, but a return to slavery. They used guerrilla tactics. They burned their own cities rather than let them fall. Yellow fever ravaged the French forces. Of the 40,000 French soldiers sent, fewer than half ever made it home. On January 1st, 1804, the revolutionaries declared independence. They renamed the country Haiti using the original indigenous Taino name meaning Land of High Mountains. It was the first black republic in the world, the first nation in history to permanently ban slavery in its founding documents, the only successful slave revolution in human history. It should have been triumph. It was bankruptcy instead. The great powers looked at Haiti and saw a nightmare. France, Britain, Spain, Portugal, the United States. All were slave-holding nations or profited from the slave trade. They saw a dangerous example that could spread like wildfire. If slaves in Haiti could overthrow their masters and be free, what would stop slaves in Jamaica, Cuba, Brazil, Virginia, Louisiana from doing the same? The existence of Haiti threatened the entire economic order of the Atlantic world. So they decided to destroy Haiti. Not with soldiers. The Haitian army had proven too formidable. Instead, they would use isolation, economic strangulation, a slow death rather than a quick one. Thomas Jefferson, the man who wrote that all men are created equal, owned more than 600 human beings in his lifetime. He was terrified of what he called the Haitian contagion. He imposed a crushing embargo. No trade with Haiti, no diplomatic recognition. American ships forbidden from Haitian ports. France did the same. Britain did the same. Spain did the same. Haiti was cut off from the global economy like a severed limb. They had sugar and coffee to sell, the same products that had made Saint-Domingue the richest colony in the world. But no one would buy it legally. Only smugglers would trade, demanding steep discounts since they were taking risks. Haiti was starved of trade, starved of diplomatic recognition, starved of loans from international banks. For 20 years, Haiti lived in a state of siege. They built massive fortresses in the mountains, stone citadels like the Citadelle La Ferrière, with walls 20 feet thick. The Haitians waited for France to return. They knew in their bones that France would never forgive the loss of its richest colony. France would never accept that black people could govern themselves. And they were right. The trap was being prepared. In 1814, after Napoleon was defeated, the French monarchy was restored. King Louis XVIII came to the throne. Almost immediately, the former plantation owners who had fled during the revolution began to lobby him. They had influence at court. They demanded their property back. They demanded compensation for their losses. The French government began drawing up plans for an invasion. But they knew it would be difficult and expensive. France was exhausted from the Napoleonic Wars. So they came up with a different plan. A plan cheaper than war, but in the long run more deadly. They would force Haiti to pay. Economic warfare instead of military warfare. This is where the ledger becomes the weapon. July 11th, 1825. That cloudless morning. 14 French warships in Port-au-Prince harbor. More than 500 cannons. Commander Baron de Macau sent a message to Haitian President Jean-Pierre Boyer. It was an ultimatum delivered in a sealed envelope bearing the royal seal. The message contained a royal ordinance signed by King Charles II. France would recognize Haiti's independence after 21 years of refusal. Haiti would be allowed to join the family of nations, to trade freely, to have diplomatic relations. But there were two conditions. First, Haiti had to lower its tariffs on French goods to half of what it charged other nations. This would give France economic dominance, allowing French merchants to flood the Haitian market while undercutting local producers. Second, and this was the killer, Haiti had to pay an indemnity, compensation for the lost property of French colonists. And what was that property? The land distributed to formerly enslaved people, the equipment and buildings, and the people themselves. France was demanding that Haitians pay for the value of their own bodies. The price was being set on freedom as if liberty were a commodity to be bought and sold. The amount demanded was 150 million gold francs. Let that number sit for a moment. 150 million gold francs. To understand this sum's scale, consider this. It was 10 times the annual budget of the Haitian government. 10 times. Haiti's entire government revenue for a year was 15 million francs. France was demanding 10 years' worth of total revenue. It was more than the United States had paid France for the Louisiana Purchase in 1803. That transaction doubled America's size, giving it control of the entire Mississippi River basin, more than 800,000 square miles of territory. France sold that vast expanse for 80 million francs. But for Haiti, a nation 1/30th the size, France demanded nearly twice as much. It was an impossible sum. A sum designed not to be paid, but to crush the nation forever. To keep Haiti in permanent debt, to ensure the Black Republic could never prosper. Think about the scale of that. Think about the cruelty of the calculation. President Boyer stood in his office, the ultimatum in his hands, looking out at the warships. He could see the cannons. He knew if he refused, the French would open fire. They would bombard the city. They would blockade the ports, starving the country of trade. The Haitian army was tired after decades of war. Veterans of the revolution were aging. Weapons were old. The fortresses couldn't protect the coastal cities where most Haitians lived. He knew no other country would help. Britain wouldn't help. The United States wouldn't help. Spain wouldn't help. No one would help a nation of former slaves standing up to a European power. So he made a tragic calculation that haunts Haitian history to this day. He believed paying the money was the only way to lift the embargo, to end the isolation. He believed it was the only way for Haiti to be accepted into the community of nations. He thought he was choosing the lesser evil. Bankruptcy over bombardment. Debt over death. On July 11, 1825, President Boyer signed the ordinance. He picked up a pen, dipped it in ink, and bound his nation in chains. The warships fired their cannons in celebration, a salute that echoed across the harbor and through the mountains. It was the moment Haiti sold its future. The receipts were printed, the ledger was opened. But here's where the crime becomes truly diabolical. The first payment of 30 million francs was due immediately, before the French ships left the harbor. But Haiti didn't have 30 million francs. The treasury was empty after years of isolation, years of embargo, years of military spending. The national coffers couldn't pay even a fraction. So where did they get the money? This is where the trap snapped shut. The French negotiators had a solution. Haiti could borrow the money. From whom? From French banks, of course. A consortium of French banks, led by the House of Rothschild, stepped in with an offer. They would loan Haiti the 30 million francs needed for the first payment to France. But this was not a friendly loan. It was predatory, designed to extract even more wealth from an already impoverished nation. The face value of the loan was 30 million francs, but the banks deducted a massive commission fee up front. They only gave Haiti 24 million francs in actual cash. But Haiti still had to pay back the full 30 million francs plus interest. Interest that compounded every year. Look at the math. The cold arithmetic of exploitation. Haiti owed France 150 million francs. To pay just the first installment, they borrowed 30 million from French banks. But they only received 24 million. So they paid France 24 million, but still owed the banks 30 million plus interest, while still owing France another 120 million on the original debt. It was a double debt, a double chain. The French government would get its blood money. French banks would profit from the interest. Haiti was locked into a cycle of debt that would last for generations. The monster was feeding on itself. To pay this debt, President Boyer imposed draconian taxes that squeezed every ounce of productivity from the Haitian people. Every citizen in rural areas was forced to work on export crops, primarily coffee. Peasants who wanted to grow food for their families were taxed heavily if they didn't dedicate most of their land to coffee. The government had to extract every ounce of wealth to pay the French. Tax collectors became the most hated people in the countryside. The education system was shut down to save money. Schools that had been opened after independence were closed. Teachers were let go. An entire generation grew up without education because every franc had to go to Paris. Infrastructure projects were cancelled. Roads needed to connect markets went unbuilt. Bridges collapsed and weren't repaired. Ports silted up because there was no money for dredging. The entire economy was reorganized for one purpose, and one purpose only: to export cash to Paris. For the next century, this became the reality of Haitian life. Every year, ships left Port-au-Prince loaded with coffee and timber, holds packed tight. They sailed across the Atlantic to France. The money from sales went directly into accounts of the French treasury and French banks. Not a franc returned to Haiti for investment. Haitian dock workers who loaded the ships saw the wealth of their nation disappearing over the horizon, year after year, decade after decade. Haiti was bleeding capital, losing its lifeblood. Imagine a country trying to build itself up after a devastating war. It needs schools to educate the next generation, roads to connect farmers to markets, hospitals to keep people healthy, ports and warehouses and banks. But every year, 20 to 30% of its national budget, sometimes more, is sent overseas to pay for a debt that was unjust from the start, a debt extracted at gunpoint. It meant Haiti could not invest in itself, could not modernize. While the rest of the world went through the Industrial Revolution, building factories and railways, inventing new technologies, creating the modern economy, Haiti was stuck in the past. It had to squeeze its peasants harder and harder just to keep up with interest payments. The nation was suffocating, drowning in compound interest. The ledger was killing more people than bullets ever could. By the late 1830s, it became clear the debt was unpayable. 150 million francs was simply too much. Haiti defaulted on payments. The treasury was completely empty. The French returned with warships again. Once more, guns appeared in the harbor. Once more, the threat of bombardment hung over Port-au-Prince. They forced a renegotiation at gunpoint. In 1838, after tense negotiations in which Haiti had no bargaining power, the debt was reduced to 90 million francs. The French presented this as a generous concession, as if they were doing Haiti a favor. But by then, Haiti had already paid huge sums in interest. Tens of millions of francs had already left the country, never to return. And they had taken out new loans from other French banks to pay off old loans, adding more debt on top of debt. The reduction was meaningless because the damage was already done. It was quicksand. The more Haiti struggled, the deeper it sank. When Haiti couldn't pay France, they borrowed from the United States. When they couldn't pay the United States, they borrowed from Germany. Each new loan came with harsher terms. Each default led to more gunboats, more threats, more forced renegotiations. The debt became the defining feature of Haitian politics. It made the government weak because it had no resources. It made the government desperate, willing to make deals that sold out the nation's interests just to keep creditors at bay. Because the government had no money for the people, no money for food relief when harvests failed, no money for schools, no money for roads, the people lost faith in the state. They saw the government as an enemy, as just another exploiter. There were revolts, there were coups, presidents were overthrown. The political instability we associate with Haiti today has its roots in the bankruptcy of 1825. The ledger broke the nation's spine. And every time there was instability, every time there was a coup or revolt, foreign powers used it as an excuse to intervene further. They would send warships, they would land troops, they would say, "Look, Haiti is chaotic, Haiti cannot govern itself, these people are not capable of democracy." They ignored the fact that the chaos was caused by the bankruptcy they had imposed. They created the crisis and then blamed the victim. This is the pattern. This is the crime. Fast forward to 1915. Haiti was still struggling under the weight of debt, like a man walking with a boulder chained to his ankle. The First World War was raging in Europe. The United States, not yet in the war but already a rising superpower, was becoming increasingly involved in Caribbean affairs. President Woodrow Wilson looked at Haiti and got worried. He was worried Germany might try to seize the country to collect its debts. Worried about Caribbean stability, about who controlled sea lanes. So in July 1915, United States Marines landed in Port-au-Prince. Hundreds of troops came ashore, boots hitting the docks, rifles at the ready. They didn't come to help.